Hey guys, and welcome back to Hoosier Hardware, and today we have another older GPU to take a look at. Last time we had the HD 7970 GHz edition. Today we're taking a look at the R9 290. So let's go ahead and hop into it. Now today I am taking a look at the Sapphire version of this card, and this is the Tri-X variant. Obviously it has a very massive cooler on it, has 3 fans going. This card actually stays extremely quiet, and yeah, it's a really good experience to actually use in a system, provided you actually have the space for it, because this is a massive card. Now the R9 290s did come out at the end of 2013. This particular variant came out at the very beginning of 2014, and it does have a dual BIOS on it. So you have sort of the stock R9 290 BIOS, and then you have one that's basically factory overclocked up to about 1040 megahertz. Now I was able to get this thing stable at 1100 megahertz, but I went ahead and just tested it at that second BIOS of the 1040 megahertz, that sort of factory overclock. So as to give you a little bit better of an idea of what you definitely will be able to achieve out of the box with a card like this. Now just so you kind of know where pricing is right now in the middle of 2020 for a card like this, I got this thing for like $88 and change, and I'll go ahead and link the exact search that I used to find a card like this. Basically, if you're on eBay, you just search for R9 290s, sort by the cheapest ones, and make sure that you have checked the buy it now option, or at least accepts offer options, so that you can kind of locate the cheapest readily available cards. It was pretty caked in dust, so I did have to clean it up a little bit, but now that I've replaced thermal paste, cleaned it up, this thing performs like a champ. In fact, temperature wise, it's staying on the better side of the 70 mark. We're in the sort of upper 60s a lot of the time under full load with this card. So even though it's pretty power hungry, because of this massive cooler on it and because of those 3 fans, this thing not only stays quiet, but it also stays very cool. Now if it's in an enclosed system, whereas I use this open test bench, you definitely do need some airflow going through it. Otherwise this thing may heat up quite a bit, but as long as you do have airflow, you should be in good shape cooler wise with this Sapphire variant of the R9 290. Now the test bench with the R9 290 here is identical to the 7970 gigahertz edition I used. We have the Ryzen 9 3900X at 4.0 gigahertz. We have 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory running at 3000 megahertz, and then of course the GPU itself. And because of that, we're testing the exact same games on the same settings. So in the charts, you're going to see the R9 290 versus the 7970 gigahertz edition. So let's go ahead and hop into those titles and see how the 2 cards compare. We're going to start off with the esports titles here. Fortnite on the low preset at 1080p definitely favors the R9 290, and that's going to be a common theme here. We do have that extra gigabyte of VRAM as well as a slightly newer architecture, whereas that 7970 is featuring the Tahiti core. The R9 290 does have a Hawaii core on it, so we're getting a little bit better performance there as well as an increased level of VRAM. So with Fortnite low preset, we do see a nice bump on the average FPS up to 233, 1% low of 159, and a 0.1% low of 98. Moving over to Fortnite on the high preset, for those of you that like a little bit more eye candy, again, a really solid average FPS here of 105, a 1% low there of 70, and a 0.1% low of 49. Moving over to Call of Duty Warzone on mostly normal settings here, we saw again that nice bump up to 90 average FPS, well over that 60 mark we like to see, a 1% low there of 64 and a 0.1% low of 54. So even in one of these titles where the 7970 actually performed quite well, the R9 290 still gives you a nice boost. And finally, going over to Valorant on the high settings, it's not even close. The R9 290 destroyed the 7970 in this title. Now getting on to some single player titles that are a little bit more demanding here. Metro Exodus, the built-in benchmark on the low preset. We saw a really nice average FPS of 112, but that 1% low is cleared down there at 61, and that really shows off once again. Metro Exodus has a wide range of FPS that you're gonna see in the game depending on your environment. The good news here is even when the FPS was dipping, we're still seeing it consistently over that 60 mark. So on the low preset, you're really good to go here with the R9 290. In Borderlands 3, we continue to see that nice healthy bump, and with the 1% low and this title also being above 60, once again the R9 290 is a really good option for this title on the low preset, whereas the HD 7970 is really starting to get pushed to its limits, and you really see that with the 0.1% low on the 7970 being well below 30, whereas whereas with the R9 290, we are still above 30. So this is definitely an easily playable title with this R9 290, whereas the HD 7970, yes, it's playable, but I would hesitate to recommend it, especially because an R9 290 doesn't really cost much more, if at all. In my case, it actually costs less than the 7970 I got, and you're getting quite a bit better performance from the 290. And finally, with Red Dead Redemption 2, the R9 290 doubled up the 7970, and this is a result to the point where I really feel like I might go back and check, just as a sanity check, to make sure that everything is on the up and up with this title. Maybe there was something happening in the background with the 7970, but that was the result I had with the 7970, to the point where I would not recommend this title with a 7970 gigahertz edition, but I have no problem recommending an R9 290 to run Red Dead Redemption 2, because the experience on low settings was perfectly fine. In fact, to the point where if you like a little more eye candy, you actually do have a little bit more room to go ahead and up settings, as long as you don't mind the game running consistently below 60 FPS. And that brings us to the end of those benchmarks, and because of what I paid for this R9 290 versus the 7970s that I was seeing available, there's really absolutely no reason to get a 7970 at the prices that they tend to be going for, because the R9 290 I actually paid significantly less for this card, and it gives you a lot better performance. So if you're out there on the used market, specifically if you're out there on eBay, the 7970s seem to be at a decent price until you really consider the other cards available around them. It's not that the 7970s are expensive, it's just that there are other cards in the same pricing neighborhood that give you significantly better performance. Now, one of the big drawbacks of the 7970 and obviously the R9 290 here is you need a good power supply, because these are power hungry cards, whereas if you're working with something like an RX 470, RX 480s, GTX 1060, some of those little bit more modern cards that are lower power requirements, you can get away with a cheaper power supply, and power supplies are quite expensive right now. But if you already have a system with a solid power supply in it and you just need a GPU upgrade, this actually might be a pretty good option for you. So of course, we are gonna kick it back to you guys. What do you think about the R9 290 here in 2020? Is this a card that you're still running in your system? Is this a card you're considering upgrading to? Maybe you're featuring a very old GPU and you're looking for something at least modern enough to play modern games, in which case the R9 290 might be a good option for you. Anyways, let me know all your thoughts on the card in those comments down below. And of course, if you liked the video, give it a like, share, subscribe, comment. All those things are very helpful for the channel. You can follow me both on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.